What's going on, guys? I have Shredder issue 3, and so far, I haven't been the biggest fan of this spin off series from our mainline TMNT. And I will say, this one didn't do a whole lot to exactly reverse that effect on me. So let's just get right on into it, and we'll talk about some of the things that, kind of stuck out to me, whether it be good or bad, and all that fun stuff. So, this is Chapter 3, Interference. We got Dan Waters as our writer and Michelle Bandini as our artist. So we're over here. We got Shredder over here just kind of waiting to speak with somebody. His secretary's coming out and saying, hey, welcome. How was your flight? All that. Shredder just kind of bitches and moans about his first class service and continues to wait on. His name is Batten. That is the name of the guy. Now, the reason I don't really remember it is just because, well, he's not going to play a huge role here for a moment. The assistant does kind of. It's like, hey, if you need anything, I'm just right out here, for which Shredder ignores. And then says, I see you. And who he is then talking to is Avon. And I've mentioned this in the past. I have no idea why Shredder has Avon assist in any way, shape, or form. He just doesn't strike me as somebody that needs government assistance. And she's given no real reason in the past issues as to why he would think of her as any kind of value. She didn't really do a whole lot. She just was like there, and Shredder's like, you can assist me. Okay, I don't know why. And I will say that if she's not already, she's definitely rolling towards the Mary Sue aspect. She's not a very likable character for me. So they're having a little banter back and forth, and Shredder warns her, don't interfere with me. Kind of gives her, tries to draw a line, like don't fuck with anything I'm trying to do. Batten comes in, and they're talking, and now he says he doesn't have time to give Shredder like a tour throughout the facility, but they can go out to lunch, and it would be like a small flight. I believe it was Munich. They can take a flight on the private jet, and that just stuck out as really weird to me. It's like he doesn't. It's a bad time for them to just kind of walk around a building. Now there's reasons behind this, but I'm just trying to look at it from Shredder's POV here too. You don't have time to just kind of walk me through a facility, but we can go down. You could tell that they're on an upper level of the building. We can go down through the building to an airport where the private jet is, and then fly to Munich to have lunch. That's really bizarre. And I don't understand that. So, and then Shredder says something really weird here, and I just thought it was really odd wording. He says, no, the pretense is already redundant. And I don't exactly understand what the hell he's talking about here. He was invited to lunch. Shredder then gives like a stare down and then says that the pretense is already redundant. And then, Batten's like, what do you mean? And he goes through a long spiel, but basically he's like, you and the rest of this facility smell of fear. This is really unnecessary because he's going through like how people, when they're like afraid, they give off a pheromone in their sweat and all this, that, and the other, and that's the long around way of saying this. That everybody here smells of fear. What the hell? Then he finally confronts Batten about the mourner and the part that they created for her and all that. And Batten's like, we can't talk about it. We need to pretend that everything is all hunky-dory and normal. Otherwise, we're going to be involved in his test subject, like as a test subject for him. And Shredder's like, For who? And that's when Dr. Gast shows up. Now, we did see him briefly in the previous issue, and I had some theories as to who he might have been, and I was wrong on that, and that's A-okay. You know, that's part of going through the comics. You kind of look at things, and I was also, you know, I was thinking because of the art style, even though who I was predicting it was an older gentleman. I mean, we see Saki here. He's older, but he still has kind of a youthful look. That's why I wasn't too deterred by the youthful look of Dr. Gast here. So yeah, we see that he pops in, and he's basically saying that Batten's the new test subject, and then they disappear, except for Batten's legs remain, and just kind of slump on over. Now Avon chimes in and says, "Hey, I noticed some smoke. What's going on?" And Shredder's just like, "Oh, it's smoke from different dimensions through all the teleporting, alien realm kind of thing." And he puts on the mask and starts to walk around after he also puts on his claws. Not a huge fan of the whole suit look. I don't know. It doesn't feel like Shredder. I get he's supposed to be in business attire, but I will say that this doesn't really feel like Shredder when he's over here waiting on an appointment. That just doesn't come off as some sort of thing that Shredder would be out here doing. He's like, "No, I'm gonna make this person talk to me now. This is on my terms, not your terms. I am the one who decides when we're talking." And so it seems really out of character for him. So yeah, he's wandering around in his suit now with the mask and his claws. He talks to the assistant, and we find out that this is somebody that works in the lab, and he's just like, "Okay, tell me where the lab is." And we find out more information through Avon about who Dr. Gast is as Shredder makes his way down to the lab. And that is where we see his lab here, and we see like all these individuals who are like split in various forms. And I believe that this is like after they teleported, one forms like part of their bodies in like this dimension, whereas another's in another dimension, and that's why they don't just kind of slump over right away, because they don't look to be suspended in any way, shape, or form from like the ceiling or anything. And I believe that's what Gast does talk about here. And we notice the little board, and we see like what he's been working on. And I thought that you can't really see it in my camera here, but in like all up front here we have E equals mc squared, the old Einstein equation that everybody knows, theory of relativity and all this that. I'm like, yeah, okay, I think that would play a part in how the whole teleportation thing is, but the way that it's up front, like this was like the last final piece that we needed to make this, the whole teleporting thing worked. I didn't buy that. I'm like, okay, we just threw it in there because whoever decided to put it on there, whether it was Waters or Michelle, they decided to put that there because it was a thing that everybody knows. I think that would be more of like a starting building block than like a final piece. So I just nitpicky as shit. Okay, I'm just being very honest. I just thought it was a little slightly cringe just to throw it at the very top there. So we see Gast. He comes in, and he's a little offended by Shredder referencing the drawing as just like a bunch of worms, and he's offended by this because this is his life's work or whatever, and he describes it more as a symphony along with like the rest of the bodies. They're all symphonies of his work, all strings in his orchestra. And so the two fight it out. Gast has got this baton, and he's just kind of doing like the teleport, attack, disappear, teleport again, attack. Very sporadic in his movements. And Shredder then decides to as they're sitting there talking, and because Gast is very proud of like all these bodies, he goes ahead and shreds all of them. And yeah, we see that they're now all slumped on the ground. This pisses off Gast further, for which Shredder then gets the baton and smashes it. But that does not stop Gast. He continues on. Now, I don't know why we have this, but we have it go from, you can't really see too much on the camera, but we have like screwdriver to a drill. The drill's still working. Like it just hits the floor, but Gast is still there to recover it. And he disappears. And then he comes back with a screwdriver. And I'm just like, I don't understand what the purpose of that was for. But meanwhile, we also, while this is all going, Avon's back in, Shredder's ear and kind of communicating with him. Is like, hey, I think I can help, knock out the power. For which Shredder says, do not do that. Do not interfere. Because what we also find out is Gast is using Utrum technology and not just regular human technology based on our current electronics. So Avon wants to set up EMPs to knock out the power, but Shredder's like, that's not going to affect his technology. That doesn't work the same way, so it's just don't do it. It's going to do more harm than good. They continue to fight, and as Gast is talking about, Shredder's like, I've been to other dimensions. I've seen gods. I've seen monsters. I've seen, science working on like magic and magic working like science. It's not meant for us. You don't know what you're doing. This is not something you want any part of. And so the fight continues, but then Avon's like, hey, I set up the EMPs. I'm going to go ahead and knock out the power. So she's just doing whatever she wants to do. And yeah, Shredder once again says, don't. And yeah, the power is out now. So they can't communicate, and Shredder's now in the dark. But he starts to see, as Gast comes in and out, there's some residue as to where he's going to be and where he came from. And I just want us to pay attention here. It's fairly bright. It's illuminating his face a little bit. And that's before Gast actually shows up, where it's like super bright. But all of these panels where he's gone and come back from, it's fairly bright. It's so basically how I look at it is, like, if you took a flashlight and you had all the lights on, you could still see it. It'd be a little dim, but you could see it. That's kind of the impression I'm getting out of this. And that does play a factor in for later, but I just want to note that Shredder is able to see this very bright thing. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's obviously brighter because the lights are out, but it's glowing. Like, it's very bright. So I think you could have seen that with the lights on. But yeah, he takes advantage of that. He places his claws where he does believe that Gast is about to appear, and yep, sure enough, he does. So now he's been stabbed, and at first Gast is a little puzzled, and then he's freaking out a little bit. He thinks that that's like strings or worms or whatever, and Shredder's like, that's your entrails now. Just be a good boy and go ahead and go to sleep. And then we see Avon so like happy with herself. She's like, I didn't think that it was going to work on his tech, but I figured it would leave, his tech would leave some sort of a trace that you might be able to pick up on. Did it work? So it's like, you just did that on a whim after being told not to do that. And you are it just so happens to work out in your favor. And then that's what I kind of mean about the whole Mary Sue, is like, she's not listening. She's doing her own thing. And of course it works out because it doesn't have any, there's no reason why that had to have worked. Like, she didn't make that deduction beforehand. She didn't communicate that with Shredder at all. She just did it, and it just so happens to work. And that's really irritating. And again, I have no idea why Shredder would allow her to trail for any reason. Like, he is the kind of person to take charge of something. I don't know why he needs her at all. She has not shown to be valuable in any kind of way. Um, but yeah, Shredder then once again threatens her, just as he did in the beginning. She's scared, but I already know she's going to do it again. She's going to do it again. There's been no consequences for her actions. And so Shredder lets her know that, oh, we have one more stop we need to go to, and that the Mourner, she's not looking to just tear open a hole in New York, but more or less in multi-dimension area and let in a whole bunch of monsters, and that's where we end. And so that, again, I'm not a big fan of this series so far. Out of all of the current Ninja Turtle runs that I'm currently reading, this is by and large the weakest for me. I'm still going to go through it. I'm still going to read them all. I am going to collect them. That is just something I'm interested in doing. I would not recommend this to anybody though, unless you're just trying to collect all the issues. If you're wanting a good story, I don't think that this is going to be where you find it. I would recommend the Casey Jones series, the Journeys, the Mainline series. I would recommend all of those and just ignore this one because I just don't feel that this is portraying Shredder in a proper light. He's so cooperative with the government without any kind of ulterior motive. He is allowing Avon to just completely disrespect him, and he's just letting her live through this. I don't buy that. He would have punished her in some way, shape, or form. There is no way that she's just going to completely disregard what he says and not pay a price for that. I don't buy that. Like I said, I think Avon is definitely more of the Mary Sue type character. If she's not fully there, she is trending that way real bad. And it's just not a very likable character. And then the Mourner, she rubbed me the wrong way right from the get-go because we had to tear down Shredder in order to prop her up, and I don't like that. I'm like, we can have a cool, badass new character. I'm all for that, but the way you had to do it is you gotta shit all over our currently established, badass character and be like, see, look how much better our character is. And I'm not a fan of that. So this is not a series I would recommend at this point. But yeah, I'll still read the next one and give my overall thoughts on everything. I'm just glad that with each issue, I have other things that I like a hell of a lot more in to kind of helps supplement how just down I feel about this series. So, but yeah, I again would not recommend this. Stick with all the others. But that is all I have for today, guys. So until next time, take care and God bless.